What's up? Welcome back to the Full Court Press, joined today by Ariel Atias, Marco Romo, and guest of the hour on his third stream of the day for 5 reasons, Alex Toledo, the great Alex Toledo, the people's champ. And we got a lot of hoops to talk about because the NBA season is almost done. I mean, we're 2-3 games out from the play-in game, and then, things are just going to go crazy from there. But there's tons of stuff to talk about. Want to dive – first of all, how are we doing tonight, fellas? How are we doing tonight?
Made it at the buzzer.
Great. The Heat are hopefully, pending this result of the Wizards-Hawks games, looking good right now. I don't want to jinx it. I might have just done that. But Heat have a chance to move up into the 4-5 matchup tonight. So doing good.
Aren't they? They would be 4th seed if the Hawks lose, right?
They would move up to 4. Yes, you're right. Yeah,
that'd be so beautiful. Getting a home playoff stand against the Hawks would just be very, very nice. We'll get into the Heat later on in the culture corner, as you guys may know. I do want to get into All-NBA because this is pretty much the top of the conversation this week for people that aren't talking about playoffs. They're talking about who's going to make the All-NBA teams, like which players deserve it, yada, 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 yada. There's like 20 to 25 guys you could probably list in these lists. And if you leave one person off, you will just get assaulted for it. But, there goes Marco. Anyways, let's dive into these All-NBA lists. So, I don't know who wants to go first. Alex, Ariel?
Alex, you're the guest, brother. Let's hear your list.
Let's see it. Let's hear it.
This is the worst list you're going to see. I promise you. I hate it.
We like it. We like things that people hate. Gives us something to talk about.
Oh, wait, am I announcing it?
Go ahead. Manny might have the visual up. We're waiting on that, but go ahead and give us the first team first.
All right. So for first team, I've got jotted down here, in my trusty journalist notepad. Steph, Jimmy, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic.
Steph, Jimmy, Giannis.
I think Ariel's catching on to what I'm doing.
All I know is your first team is exactly the same as mine, and I thought,
let's go, man.
I thought I was going to be the hot take guy on here, having to make the case for Jimmy on the first team. I thought that Steph, Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic would be locks for the first team, but my guy Alex Toledo, man, we got the same first team. I've got Jimmy at the guard spot as well.
So let's get that second team in.
What a graphic, man! You can't compete with this. Like I said, this is the worst list you're gonna see anybody do. But my second team, I've got Chris Paul, Luka, Kawhi, LeBron, and Bam. Look, fuck games played in a COVID year. This is basically the premise of my whole All-NBA team. I threw it out. I'm tired of narrowing down, should I pick Julius Randle over LeBron? I'm done with this. I'm going on my instinct, and I'm just picking the better players. And I'm just being petty here because there's no stakes at all involved. And, leaving out guys from teams I don't like.
So no James Harden, huh?
I wanted to throw in Harden. I really did. And you'll see in my third team. Yeah, but that's the thing. I ended up picking KD just because I think KD's the better player. They both played 33 games. So it was tiebreaker, I think Durant's the better player. That's pretty much it. And I wanted to really give Kyrie a nod, but I couldn't fit in another guard because I would have had to move Luka to third team for Kyrie in second team or something like that. I think I just didn't want to do that. KD, like I said, fuck games played. And, transitioning from that into my third team is Dame, Donovan Mitchell, KD, Paul George, and Anthony Davis.
Okay, so, last time that we were on this stream, we kind of spoke about Anthony Davis and the fact, he's played great since I don't want to call it slander, but we called him out on his stats and kind of the way that he had been playing. AD is probably the only question mark that I have there specifically, just because, when you look at it, he was just how do I put this?
You want another reasoning behind this?
Please.
I thought you guys were going to pick up on this. I did that just to leave Gobert out.
I love it.
That makes a lot more sense. Wow. Okay, that understandable, but I don't know. AD, he has not brought it. If you just look at that one game against who was it? He played well against the Knicks. He had 42 against the Suns the other night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, over a 1 week sample size, yeah, he's probably all NBA this year.
Gobert objectively probably deserves it over AD. Fuck objectivity, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, can I ask you, Alex, to make the case for Chris Paul on the second team? I don't think it's that hot of a take, but I want you to make a case for it because I disagree with it.
Because I was going back and forth between him and Dame. Dame was originally on my second team, and this is another thing right here. It's just personal opinion. I've always loved Chris Paul, and then I ended up just looking right back at the standings and just kind of, I'm just gonna do the lazy, they're winning vote right here because I just think like even though the Suns were an upstart team last year, they won all those games in the bubble. It's so cute. Like Chris Paul made a real big difference, and I want to give the fact that he's doing it at the age that he is ridiculous. He's not LeBron's size, man. That guy is 5'10". I stood right there 2 feet from him in Chicago. He's like 5'11". Like I'm serious. It's ridiculous what he does. He's so good. And Booker deserves a nod too. Like I'm not even trying to trash Booker here, but I just gave it to Chris Paul because I feel like Booker's gonna get like 1 million more.
So my only beef with the Chris Paul inclusion there, and I think he's going to be on a lot of people's second and third teams for sure. And I get the argument, the whole idea behind rewarding winning, being the leader on a really good team. They have the second best record in the West and the second or third best record in the NBA. So I get that. But to me, like I have a hard time putting a guy who's averaging 16 and 9 on an all NBA team. Like when I was going through this today and going through all the players and looking at their stats and looking at team records and impacts on, off, all of that stuff, it is absolutely loaded this year. And the thing that makes it hard and why I think that most people are going to have pretty different looking teams, which is what shocked me that you and I actually have the same first team. The rest of our lists are completely different, but our first teams being the same is that games missed. How much do we factor that in? Chris Paul hasn't missed a ton of time, right? Like he's been leading the charge there in Phoenix all season. But to me, a guy averaging 16 points and 9 assists, like I personally don't see it. I might be in the minority. I know that he's going to be on a lot of people's, second, third teams, but that's where I'm at with it.
So, Era, with all that being said, your team.
Well, my first team, it's Steph, Jimmy, Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic. I was really close on Luka and Jimmy for the first team.
I'll make the case, I guess, for Chris.
For Chris Paul? Okay, go ahead, and then I'll get back to my teams. Or are you frozen?
Marco must have that me internet tonight.
I don't get this bit.
Yeah, I don't. What were we doing here? All right, I'm going to go forward with my teams while Marco sorts out the internet situation. So I've got Steph, Jimmy, Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic on the first team. The reason I have Jimmy over Luka on the first team, because that's really what it came down to for me. Real quick, Luka's having an unbelievable season. He's averaging like 28, 8, and 8 on 48, 35, 73. He's having a ridiculous season. Like that dude is special for sure. He is the head of the snake there, and he controls everything they do. The reason I've got Jimmy on the first team is, the numbers are what they are. 21, 7, and 7, leading the league in steals. What is it, like 50? I want to say 50% from the field, 86% from the line. So he's had a really good season. Basketball Reference, on their MVP tracker has Jimmy at number 5. So they think he's been the 5th most impactful player, for his team in the NBA this season. And aside from the stats and all of that, Jimmy Butler is one of the best. This year, I think he's been a top 4, maybe top 3 defender in the league, depending on what you value. Like he's been absolutely ridiculous off ball, on ball. He's absurd. The argument for him is that the Heat are 32 and 19 with him and 6 and 12 without him. If you extrapolate that to a full season, they're 24 and 48 without Jimmy. They would be a terrible, terrible team, a bottom 5 team. Jimmy is a cumulative plus 181 plus minus, and the Heat's net rating with him on is 2.4. They are minus 7.2 without him. It's a tremendous difference.
Wow.
It's a huge drop off. So that's why I've got Jimmy up there.
You came with the receipts, man.
Yeah,
hey,
for
man.
real.
That's why
strapped today.
That's why I've got Jimmy up there on the first team.
5 reasons has never seen preparation like this. I can assure you.
Well, Brady Hawk might have something to say about that.
My bad. I'm talking about besides Brady.
On the second team, I've got Dame, Luka, Kawhi, Julius Randle. And as much as it hurts me, I'm going to go Rudy Gobert. I think I'm rewarding team record in this case, similarly to how you did with Chris Paul. I could see an argument.
But I did for guys I like.
Right. Listen, man, I'm trying to be impartial. We're trying to branch out from the Heat stuff on here. So I'm going Rudy Gobert on the second team. He spearheads a phenomenal team. He's probably been their MVP this year. Donovan Mitchell's been really good, but without Rudy Gobert, that's just not that team is nowhere near as good as they are. I wanted to put Bam on the second team, and I was really going back and forth with it. I was close, but I felt like, you know what? I think that's probably how it's going to shake out. I think Rudy is going to get more All-NBA votes than Bam will, and so that's why I went in that direction. And then for my third team, I went Bradley Beal. He's been unbelievable. Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson's been absurd. I put Kyrie Irving on there. I know he's missed some games, but not that much. I think he's got a similar amount of games played to Jimmy. He's been spectacular. He's averaging something like, I think, 27, 5, and 6 on a 50, 40, 90 shooting split. So he's having a ridiculous season. And then I put Bam Adebayo for my last spot on the third team. 19, 9, and 5, elite defense, has a case for DPOY. What can you say? That guy's amazing.
That is
Zion, man.
Factual statements.
Like
Let's get to some of these comments really quick. Actually, no, we'll debate a few things. I guess I might be lower on Bradley Beal than most for an All-NBA selection. I understand he's been unbelievable offensively, but between this year and last year, his numbers are relatively similar. The only thing that changes, he has a better point guard. Last year, I don't think he got All-NBA. I just don't. I feel like with all the talent and kind of how insane everybody's been this year, I personally do not think Bradley Beal gets that nod. I didn't have him on there on my own list. Ariel, do you have a rebuttal as to Bradley Beal being deserving of that third?
So number one, the fact that he's second in the league in scoring, or is he first? Is Steph still ahead of him?
He's almost first. Like, he's right there. Okay.
So the reason I've got Bradley Beal on the third team is I actually view the fact that he's playing with a high usage, relatively inefficient, ball dominant point guard who we've made the case for being phenomenal on here before. So don't take this as Wizard slander, Russell Westbrook slander. I love that guy, but that's just the fact of the kind of player that he is at this point. Bradley Beal being able to do that next to somebody who demands the ball and uses up possessions as much as Russell Westbrook does, I think is actually more impressive. It strengthens his case. And then I also think that the media narrative that Bradley Beal has been slighted in the last couple of years, despite of what he's done as a player, as an offensive player in this league, I think he'll get the nod as a result of that.
I think I might have fucked up leaving Zion out.
Zion's been absurd.
He has been, but his defense has also been not so great, to say the least. So I'm okay with. I may have also left him off, so I'm okay with it.
Is he like in Pokemon, like the second evolution of Shaq?
He's like.
That's like how I understand Zion.
He's like Snorlax on offense and Snorlax on defense. But
Snorlax can't handle and drive to the rim like he can.
Hey, man,
Nemanja Bjelica says Snorlax on offense.
What's happening? Are you good, brother? We're going off the rails.
My computer almost fell live on air. I'm glad it didn't fall.
It's a third stream of the day. Marco, are you with us? Can you?
Let me test it out. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay.
You're doing the robot, but we hear you, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me turn my camera off then. All right, there, you can just hear me.
Yep.
Am I good?
You're good, brother.
Yes, you're good.
Go with the first team.
Okay, I'll go with. All right, so mine's pretty similar to Ariel's actually. I'm surprised that Luke is not on a lot of people who I've seen on Twitter's like first team. But I understand if you want to have him on your second. I'm fine. This is also interchangeable to me. The second guard after Steph, you can have Damian first or Luka first. I don't really care either way. Then I have Giannis. I did the two center thing because I hate how people have gotten so mad about the center situation. That people used to get mad because there were too little choices for centers, and now that there's a lot of good centers out there, people are going to be mad that they're going to be on the first team.
I love that all three of us have done it so far.
Yeah. Well, we all want to get back,
and we all did it for the same reason, exactly.
Yeah. But they're deserving though, and the money thing plays into this as well. These two guys the MVP stuff is going to come into like bonuses and stuff. And if you can get them into like, you're dealing with guys' contracts, and if you're in the media, you're going to want to reward these guys for playing at MVP of levels this year. And when you have this loophole, why not, give them the first team? And I also like, I heard this on No Doug's podcast. They were talking about how people look back on team players going on first teams. They never look back on you being on like a second team or third team. And why not like look back on these two guys like that instead of having to say, oh, they were just all NBA. Like when you say first team, there's like a more level of credibility to that. And in terms of like a Hall of Fame case and all of that extra stuff. That's also another reason why I got them up there. I guess, all right, second team, again, similar to Ariel, Chris Paul, Damian Lillard. No, actually not similar to Ariel, more like to Alex. The Chris Paul argument I wanted to make was this is like Steve Nash in 2005. You can't really quantify his impact with like simple counting stats like that. It's very much an eye test thing. It's also an on-off numbers really show how good he is with them. And he's also their closer, which I don't know how much stock you put into that, but I think you have to put as much stock as you can into that, especially considering how good they are in like clutch games this year. So yeah, I put that in my mind. I was like, the counting stats aren't huge, but I don't know. It's just he's like almost a 50, 40, 90 guy this year, which is insane for a guy in his mid-30s right now. Dame, I think he's had a bit of a rough like into the year because he's had to carry the whole team on his back with Nurkic and McCollum injured. And Jimmy, we all know how good Jimmy is. I don't need to go on about that. Kawhi and Rudy Gobert, I know you hate me for that, Alex, but I think his defensive impact is like really, really, really important for.
I know he definitely deserves a spot.
Yeah, he's important to how they run their defense. Without them, he's not going to go like.
Says the guy who left him off.
That's how I like to. That's how I like to cover my bases.
Doesn't matter as much when you don't have a ballot.
I would like to keep Gobert from a bonus if I could, though.
Hey, I'm with it.
Yeah, he's already making a super max.
I don't mind. Third to me, the guards are like also as interchangeable. Somebody put Paul George you could put Paul George here instead of Bradley Beal, and I'd be fine with it. I would like the third team guards are like yeah whatever, just put it in there. That's why I got Bradley Beal and Kyrie Irving. I was like, it's so interchangeable to me. Like, if I were a media person, I'd be like struggling with this.
It's terrible.
Money's on the line.
This ballot is like impossible.
Yep.
It feels like the hardest it's ever been, and maybe I would actually have to go through it. But like, I had a terrible time doing it, and why I ended up just copping out and going with guys I like as a tiebreaker and saying fuck games played. Like, there's just too many people, man. It was like impossible to whittle down to 15 players.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And by the way, as a rebuttal to what you said, Marco, and your team, one of our commenters, Ryan Chua, how about this? You consider this? You forgot LeBron, Mr. ESPN.
Yeah.
I left LeBron. I left LeBron off my teams too. I think he's missed too many games.
Well, Mr. ESPN, what do you have to say for yourself?
7 games less than Jimmy.
I think he played. What does he play total? Like 40 games or 42
I did the math.
games?
I think he's played like in total. He's gonna have played like 63% of their games if he plays the next 3 or 2.
So what I would say to that is, it's obviously a very good point. But in my like, to me, it's the fact that I guess LeBron's missing the games towards the end of the season when voters are going to have that recency. The recent results of the games.
You have recency bias, is what you're saying. You're being clouded by recency bias.
100%. I also think Jimmy's been better than LeBron this year, but we can do that in another episode.
Does that count since the finals? Because I agree.
Oh, he was better than him in the finals.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Is a factual statement. Okay, let's get to some of these comments.
Hold on.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It said that we should have a whole like slot for LeBron in general. Call it
no, I missed that.
The Titan slot or something. That we just put LeBron automatically. He's like in his own like tier every year. I like that idea. Just like never have to worry about it.
I get what you mean. You like it as an idea, so that you don't. It's like an extra spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like just one. That's it.
I thought you were gonna bag on Arnovitz for giving Levine an All NBA team spot. I just couldn't believe it, man. I just couldn't believe it.
Those numbers in Chicago are extra valuable, I guess.
Yeah, man, the 12th seed. You got to give him an honor.
I do want to get to some of these comments. Kevin Adu with one of the greatest comments I've seen. All NBA teams should be positionless. I wholeheartedly agree with that at this point. I feel like there's so much versatility between a lot of positions. Like the only guy that plays like one strict position on this list is either Chris Paul at point guard or Rudy Gobert at center. After that, everybody is a Swiss Army knife. They just they play all over the place. So I totally agree with that. Gobert over Bam. I think for all NBA voting, it'll happen in the playoffs. I'll take Bam 10 out of 10 times. Let's see. Both talking movies. Great point. Both Beal and Westbrook deserve all NBA, in my opinion. Their run over the last 2 months has really been something to watch. I feel like they've both been so great that neither of them is going to get it, which is weird to say, but they've been good. Like they've been super fun to watch.
Beal's been good all year, though. That's the difference.
Beal has been good all year, but Westbrook has been the best player over the on their team over the last, say, 3 months, and you can't give the second best player on the Washington Wizards right now an All NBA nod. Like, I just don't think that's something that happens.
He's averaging something like 23, 13, and 13 over the last month plus. Like he's been ridiculous, but if you're going to put Russell Westbrook on that team, who are you dropping? Are you dropping Kyrie Irving? Are you dropping Chris Paul? Are you dropping Damian Lillard? Like, it's impossible, man.
Stop. You can't do it.
It's tough. It's really tough. Like, especially with the guards this year, I feel like it's impossible because there's also Jimmy has guard eligibility. Paul George has guard eligibility.
Tatum.
I think, Devin Booker is probably going to get left off. Donovan Mitchell, too. Like, there's so many guys. But if we want to go ahead and throw up.
I forgot to say that before. I left Gobert off because I put Mitchell on. Again, the tiebreaker was I like Mitchell.
Makes sense. And he's low-key played like 50-something games. I feel like people are taking the recency bias a little too far with him. Like, he's very deserving of an All-NBA nod. I don't know if he'll get it because that recency bias is a real thing. But, Manny, can we go ahead and throw up my visual really quick? The first one is I think we all had the exact same or really, really similar.
Almost. Yeah, very close.
So I have Curry, I have Kawhi, Giannis, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. Pretty chalk, right? Like we all have the three bigs and then Curry, and then I have Kawhi here just because I think the Clippers have been unbelievable and Kawhi's been their best player. And it's really as simple as that. His efficiency is really good across the board. I mean, he's almost shooting 40% from three. Talking movies saying, where is Gabe Vincent? He'll be here next year. Don't worry.
He's on the fourth team.
The fourth team for the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the JV All-NBA, but that's cool. So second team, we got Damian Lillard, Luka, Jimmy Butler, Julius Randle. I think he's actually very deserving of that. When you look at his numbers, he's honestly been absolutely ridiculous this year. And the craziest part is a lot of it is his own doing. Like, he's creating almost everything for that team. He's hitting pull-up jumpers. He's passing the ball really well. I think he's averaging, 24, 10, and 6, something like that. Like, ridiculous numbers this year. And he's playing both ends. Keep going back and forth. Julius Randle gets it. Rudy Gobert, I think he's a DPOY. He's the most valuable defensive player in the regular season in the NBA by a long shot. In the playoffs, completely different story. But in the regular season, what Rudy does to a team's game plan, I mean, he is the game plan. You just have to work around Rudy Gobert because he's locking down the paint. And then for third team, I have Kyrie for all the reasons that we've already stated. Kyrie is just ridiculous, and he's been the most consistently available player on the Nets, who's probably going to be the 2 seed.
He played almost 20 more games than Harden and KD. Yeah,
so I think Kyrie he's just unreal. He has to be there. Paul George, I don't think either of you guys have had Paul George on there yet.
He was my Oh, you did? He was my next he was the next guy that I didn't have on the teams that if I were to move someone, he would be the guy.
Mm-hmm. So I put PG over Beal just because what Paul George has been able to do over the last few months. I mean, they've put the ball in his hands and he's delivered as well as being ridiculously efficient. I believe he's close to a 50-40-90 season. He's not all the way there, but he's close to it, which is really impressive considering he's more often than not picking up the number one assignment defensively while Kawhi is playing a little bit more off ball. And that's obviously not the easiest thing to do. Jason Tatum, he's been ridiculous. I don't really like the Celtics. I hate Danny Ainge, but Jason Tatum gets a nod. He's one hell of a player, and he's it's a great person for the NBA to vote in because he's easily becoming one of the superstars in this league. Number 3, or the number 3 forward, LeBron James, not number 3. LeBron, I mean, all NBA is just his middle name at this point. I feel like you can't leave him off. He was playing like an MVP until he got hurt. And yes, he's feeling sorry for himself and whatnot, and he hasn't played in a while, but LeBron's LeBron, man. And if he's healthy in the plaofs, I mean, I know
you really believe he'll never be the same?
Forward. Huh?
You really believe he'll never be the same, or never will be 100%?
I don't know. He's probably reading. He's probably just reading the first page that he sees in every single book, and just tweeting out quotes at this point. Yeah. Who knows? But hopefully he's all right. Solomon Hill did him dirty, I guess.
If we're being honest, real quick, like there's anybody here who has LeBron on one of their All NBA teams is like probably closer than myself who didn't, because they're gonna vote him in. He's gonna be on there. He could have missed half the season, and he probably would have been on there anyways. Yeah,
it's his grouping. Like he's just there all the time. And Bam as the 15th guy there. It's crazy because I feel like Embiid and Jokic being forward eligible just makes things that much easier for Bam, because when you really break it down, if you have to put a center in there, he's probably the 4th guy. And since there's already 3 on there, I mean,
strategy, baby.
He'd have 0 All-Stars but 2 All-NBAs. This is a crazy world we live in. It really is.
That is crazy.
So
I like that better.
It's crazy. I really did not see this happening, but here we are. The Heat have turned it on. They have a chance. Do we have an update on the Wizards-Hawks game, by the way?
Oh, hold on. Let me look that up.
The Hawks.
The Hawks are up 1 with 24 seconds to go.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Hold up. Whose ball is it? It's
fucking Russ doing Russ things, man.
I think it's Wizards' ball. John Collins just made a 3 to put them up 1.
This is why Russ is not getting All NBA.
This game.
Clippers without the W, just like last game.
That's truly painful, but whatever. Can't control the Hawks right now. Not
story
scared of
Wizards.
Playoff series.
Story Wizards.
Let's get to one thing that we've been most pleasantly surprised from.
Wait, let's first acknowledge our guy, Jonathan Ramlakan, for coming in with the 199 dono. Appreciate you, brother.
Ooh, yes. Jonathan Ramlakan, co-host of the Walkouts and Knockouts.
My guy.
Thank you very much. So let's get around to the NBA here, thing we like to do every single week. Normally we like to talk about young guys, but I don't want to limit it to that. So we'll talk about pretty much anything. Marco, what's one thing that has pleasantly surprised you from around the league this season?
Pleasantly, yeah. We haven't had a lot of pleasant surprises this year, but I'm gonna go with the Denver Nuggets. I want to give them their props for being the one team of the top 4 from last year not to be limping throughout this year, or to survive the limping they've had to endure. They had a bunch of guys. Jamal Murray went down, was like, oh, their season's over, but they still keep winning games. I think they won 10 of 11 after Jamal Murray went down. And I was like, these guys are resilient as hell for the quick turnaround, for Jokic. Shout out to Jokic, probably going to win MVP. The way that he's like kept him afloat is one big reason why I have him as my MVP. It's just so surprising to me that they're the one team that's like not been affected by all the protocols, the injuries, as much as like the Celtics and Heat and Lakers have been. They've been surprising me in that sense, to watch them night in and night out, kind of play their style, not really relenting to the defense and being who they are pretty much every night. Somebody pointed out that Jokic is actually perfect for a short turnaround like this, because he never speeds up. He doesn't really need an off season, because his off season is probably throughout the season, because he takes breaks like when he's on offense, with how slow he works and the pace that he works at. He really doesn't exert too much energy. But yeah, shout out to the Nuggets. I've loved the way that they developed Michael Porter Jr. as well. Like, developing a young guy is not going to be easy in like most years, but especially not a year like this when you have him as a starter as well, when you're putting this much on his shoulders. He had a rocky start to the year at the beginning, but he's like really come along. It's just been so surprising to me that they're the one team. I would have guessed like the Lakers were going to be the one team, considering how well LeBron manages his body and all that, how the team seems to have this work ethic about itself. But you can't really run from the injuries. But even with that, the Nuggets have still had those injuries, and still made it through. And I just want to give them their props. And how surprising it's been that they've been the one team out of the 4 from last year to pretty much be a top 4 team this year.
It sucks that what happened. Like, I really do think they could have made a finals run. Like, not that I would have picked them, but they had a real shot, man. I don't even think it's a hype thing at this point. Like, they were really putting it all together. That 5 was ridiculous. The bench lineups were kind of turning around. They were okay. But Jokic, like, that guy is a monster. That dude is a monster. Man, I don't know. Jokic is unreal. He's one of my favorite players to watch right now. Should I say my surprise or whatever? My pleasant surprise?
Go ahead. I mean, I agree with everything Marco said. So go ahead.
The Hornets. Hornets.
Yes.
I remember before the year, I was kind of trying to like pin down my standings predictions, and I put the Hornets behind the Wizards and the Hawks. And there was a point in the year where they were kind of safely above them for a while before those injuries came through. And even besides that point, like, they're just way ahead of schedule. Like, I liked what they kind of had there, like, as a fun little team, but they're just so much more fun than I could have expected. Like, LaMelo is ahead of schedule as a playmaker and as a guy who can just go out there and produce for a team. Like, Hayward kind of turned it right back around. I've never been like, a huge Gordon Hayward guy, but he's back to just being a very, very good player. And he's not what makes them fun at all. Like, it's the rest of the guys that they got. It's Rozier, it's Devontae Graham, it's, Bridges, it's PJ Washington, that whole collection of young dudes that are just trying their ass off, running all over the floor, screening, passing, lobbing, playing hard as shit. And they're just so fun to watch. And I actually do think, like, it's a real thing to, look forward to for the next few years. The Hornets in those sweet, sweet, sweet jerseys. Just balling there, whether it's with Hayward or not. They've got a fun core, man.
They do. I mean, I would love to sing the praises of James Borrego. I think he's one of the best up-and-coming coaches, like, in the NBA. And it's not just because they have LaMelo, because even last year, like, they were playing this fun basketball where they're just moving the ball. And, I mean, yes, you have Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham taking probably some of the worst quality shots that I have ever seen. But sometimes they go in, and then you build confidence with these young guys. I think they're building teams the right way. And now that they have their up-and-coming superstar in LaMelo Ball, plus a veteran star in Gordon Hayward, I mean, the recipe's there. If they have another one of these guys break out, the Hornets could be a damn good team in the near future. And they're already a pretty good team as healthy. Like, if they were fully healthy, I think they're right there with the Knicks, the Heat, and the Hawks in terms of the regular season this year.
Is there a shot that they would have been right now, if it wasn't for the injuries, they would have been in that mix right now that, with us, the Knicks and the Hawks, and potentially even getting them in the first round in that 4-5. Like, I think we might have been kind of talking about them in that same category now that I think about it.
Absolutely. You go ahead, Marco.
No, it's funny because it would have been like the same cluster that happened in 2015 and 2016 when the
Wizards, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, man.
The Heat and the Hornets all ended up with the same record, so maybe we would have had that situation.
Oh my God, they're gonna revive that terrible tiebreaker. Actually, it was a good one because the Heat ended up third seed that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I hope we get the Knicks in the first round because, like, reviving the 90s Knicks thing would be, I think, a lot more fun than reviving, maybe the worst first round series in playoff history, the old Heat Hawks series from when we were younger.
So
my God.
Every game was a blowout.
How much does losing that last game to Atlanta hurt now, though? That you're relying on the Hawks to lose games so that the Heat can get into the 4-5 comfortably, because
they deserve to be in this position. Like, it's what you're saying.
Yeah, like the Heat need to. I mean, with a tougher remaining schedule, depending on who gets rested and who plays in terms of Milwaukee and Philly, the Heat are relying on some Knicks losses to secure that 4-5 matchup. So, unless they win out, you win out,
which is possible. It is possible.
Yep.
I mean, just what
tomorrow night's got to be the Super Bowl, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, Ariel.
Yes, sir.
Something you've been surprised by.
So, going into the season, similarly to how Alex was feeling about the Hornets, I felt that way about the Warriors. I didn't have them as a playoff team. I thought they'd miss the playoffs. I looked at the roster and I said to myself, Steph is great, but the rest of that roster, subpar. That's not a playoff team. You can just double Steph, you triple Steph if you need to. You're not worried about guys like Andrew Wiggins shooting well from three and being good in ISO. You're not worried about Juan Toscano Anderson and all these other dudes, hurting you. But Kent Bazemore, I didn't expect much from James Wiseman as a rookie. And he didn't have a great season, but he didn't have a bad season either. And now he's out, and they're still in the playoff race, right? They're 8th in the West, I believe. That's
crazy, man.
Yeah, they're 8th in the West. They are a game
devoid of talent.
They've got nothing. There's nothing there outside of Steph and Draymond. And they're still just right there. I mean, word to Steph. Steph's been unbelievable. He's averaging 32, 5 and 5 on 48, 42, 92 splits. Like, he's just been ridiculous. He's shooting 42% from three on like 12 and a half attempts per game. It's just absurd. So he's been unbelievable. And then I do want to shout out Juan Toscano Anderson, the aforementioned. I mean, he had to take, the long road to get to the NBA. He's improved so much as a player since he arrived. Oh, hopefully, since he arrived last season, because he fits just perfectly within the motion offense that they run in Golden State. It plays into his strength as just a smart off-ball mover behind plays. He's an intuitive passer. Those Steph, Draymond Green, Juan Toscano Anderson lineups have been phenomenal for Golden State and kind of have really helped them stay in that playoff hunt. Here they are in the 8th seed. And let me tell you, the Lakers aren't excited about playing them in the play-in. And then if the Lakers beat them, the winner of Grizzlies, Spurs, or whatever team ends up in that spot, I'm not picking them to beat the Warriors. Now, I don't think the Warriors are beating the Jazz, or maybe if it ends up being Phoenix as the 1 seed in the West in the first round, but you don't want to have to deal with Steph over the course of a playoff series. Like, he's been just absolutely unbelievable this season. He's obviously the single biggest reason that they're in the spot that they're in, and we need to give him his props. I think he's a little bit underappreciated as a player for all that he's talked about. I think he's better than that. So he's special, and to have the Warriors in the spot that they're in the West that has like at least seven like really good teams, good to really good teams, I think is a testament to how spectacular he is.
I've been surprised by how good their defense has been this year, for the most part. Shout out to Draymond Green. He's their Jimmy Butler in terms of.
And it wasn't good before he came back, right? Like towards the beginning of the season.
I think it might have been more like in the middle of the pack. I'm not sure. But the way that Draymond kind of like turns that defense like a whole nother notch is insane. He's like their Jimmy Butler though. Like, he makes everything go on the defensive end. He creates so much havoc for the opposing teams. He's such a good smart off-ball defender as well. He knows the play before it's even coming. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever seen. And just the way he manipulates offenses with these up fakes that are so simple, yet he kills you if you're not paying attention for 1 second. And shout out to Juan Toscano Anderson as well, Mexican gang out here.
Yes, sir.
He's a really good passer.
I know a few Juan Toscanos here in Hialeah.
I know a lot of Juan.
I know Juan.
Did y'all see him get into the fight with Devin Booker yesterday?
I did not. I missed it.
I didn't see that.
I caught the fourth quarter of that game.
They had a staring contest, and I was like, dang. It's over.
Oh, man.
I do want to add on Draymond Green, though. I think we all agree here that the Warriors have less talent on the roster than they've had in years, save for maybe last season, I guess. But there's just not much there. Draymond Green is averaging a career high in assists at 8.8. His closest year to that in assists per game, I think, was 7.4, 7.5. So to be averaging that many assists, of course, a lot more of the playmaking is running through him, but he's kind of always been that guy for that team. It's incredible. The fact that he's able to continue to do that with the talent that he has around him is really impressive. So shout out Draymond Green as well.
Do you happen to have his points per game this year?
7, 6.9, something like that.
I just want to, that looks like my middle school basketball stat line, but that's fine. That's totally fine.
Hey, days.
Yes. I did want to, Marco, you kind of touched on, Draymond's defense has been unbelievable. That kind of leads me into my random stat of the week. So, number 1 in the NBA in steals since April 1st on a per game basis is Draymond Green. Draymond Green, this is minimum 20 games played. I believe there's been about 24 to 25 games played over that time span. So Draymond Green is number 1 at 2.2 steals a game, which is nuts. That's honestly unbelievable. Jimmy didn't play 20 games. That's why. He's at 18. I saw that look in your face, Eric.
That was the question.
I've got a good stat for you on Draymond. He single-handedly turned Andrew Wiggins into a solid two-way player. That's a stat right there.
Can't argue with those numbers. That's for sure.
Yeah. Per NBA.com.
Yeah, thank you for giving a citing source.
The random stat. Guess the number 2 player in the NBA in steals since April 1st that has played at least 20 or more games in that time frame.
Okay, so no. Ooh. Smart. I don't know what. Marcus Smart. I don't know why I'm feeling this. I'm going Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook. Okay. Alex?
Smart.
Marco?
TJ McConnell.
Interesting.
I have not checked these leaderboards at all. I don't
know. Have not
checked.
Okay, so there's 2 players tied on this specific thing. I believe there might be 3, but I know for sure 2 of them. It's not Marcus Smart. It's not Russell Westbrook. Honestly, it might be TJ McConnell too. He might be tied with that. I know he's up there for sure. He's really
Jokic.
Really no. Bam Adebayo.
Yes, sir.
Averaging 1.8 steals a game. I thought that was absolutely crazy. His steals numbers are absurd. If you look at his game logs, it goes 3, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 3. Like, he's going nuts with steals right now. He's tied with Matisse Thybulle.
He's so good.
Bam is.
It stresses me out how good he is.
He's playing passing lanes now. I feel like he hasn't really done that this much. Like his playing the passing lanes makes such a difference on this team because you have Jimmy doing it, you have Ariza doing it, you have Bam doing it, and then you only need the other 2 guys that are playing with them as guards to just hold their own barely. Like just don't foul, honestly.
Can I ask a question? Now that you're making me think here, like the way that they've played defense all year, where it's been a lot of different coverages and they're kind of just helping all the time. Like I don't watch enough of other teams to know, but it feels like they help each other out on defense more than any other team. And we know the pros and cons. We talked about it all year, but God, like it's allowed Jimmy and Bam and now Ariza to turn into, it's like it's giving them a whole other aspect to the defense, resulting into easy offense. And it's like, it was sitting right there for them. And it's just like, man, I love Spo, man. Like, he really does this shit on the fly in the middle of the season. It's like, you know, you talking about this, just like you see it, it matches what you see on the court when you're watching the games, when you're talking about Bam, Trevor, and Jimmy. And it's like those steal opportunities, you know, playing the passing lanes were not there as often last year when they were pretty much a stick in the drop for most of the time. And, you know, having a bad point of attack defender on one end of it. And it's just like, it's amazing what Spo has done. Like, he just does this stuff in the middle of the year, man. It amazes me. What do you guys think, though? Like, the fact that they've turned out to use all these different coverages, and does it end up being worth it because of the different ways that you're optimizing Bam and Jimmy and now Ariza as well?
I think it's big for, like, the playoffs because you're going to have to be really flexible, and you're going to have to play more of a certain type of defense. Like they showed last year where they had they played more of a switching style and a lot of help and recover. They were like insanely good at help and recover like last year. Like when you saw like Duncan Robinson out on the island on LeBron, they were like really good at helping Duncan and getting back to their man in the finals, which like helped them like be competitive without Bam out
They're
there.
Great at showing and recovering too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The showing stuff is amazing. A team that's like similar to that this year, I guess would be Phoenix in terms of that, but even then they're still more of a drop team with DeAndre Ayton, who's like actually a low-key underrated defender.
Bam is a cheat code, man. It's true.
He really is. It's unreal how good he is, and like the way that I think one adjustment that they've made is when they do the switching, and let's say if Bam is on the right side of the perimeter or whatever, someone's driving, they have the help, and then they have Jimmy or Ariza playing that backside corner pass, but they have the anticipation, specifically Jimmy, to be able to play 2 defenders at once. Like they can play the guy that's in the corner and they can play the guy that's on the right wing, and it makes he covers 2 people at one time. Like, it's a credit to Jimmy Butler that he's truly unreal at doing that. And Ariza's gotten it too. You've even seen like Duncan and Kendrick Nunn have done it a few times too. Like, they have their rotations down, and it makes this team so like, I don't know. We'll talk about where we think this team is going to go in the playoffs or whatever, but this team is going to be such an annoying team to play against, even if you have a massive talent gap, because they do things so smart. They're so smart defensively, and it's not really showing right now. Their defensive rating has dropped off a little bit, but in the playoffs, as long as the effort and the focus is there, this defense is going to be very, very fun to watch, and I'm super excited for it.
You guys make great points. They're built for the playoffs. They're a matchup, a team that's built to match up with other teams. You've got guys like Spo and Jimmy Butler who have shown that their biggest strengths are essentially that, you know, you give them the time to prepare for someone, dissect matchups, and figure out how to attack them. Especially, I mean, Jimmy and Spo are 2 of the best in the business at that. You know, it lends itself to playoff basketball. The fact that the Heat are, you know, willing to switch everything across the floor, while sometimes doesn't work out, it's going to work a little bit better in the playoffs because you've perfected it over the course of a couple of seasons now. We've seen the Bucks just start mixing that in this season, right? Like, they've switched more as the season has gone on. Something that's held them back in the past is an unwillingness to, you know, just try different things and do things in a different way. They would drop all the time.
That's Brook Lopez, though. And he can't switch. They asked him to switch. He's going to be out of the league if he switches.
Catastrophe. And adding PJ Tucker has helped their ability to switch for sure. But I'm just saying, like, when it comes to Spo and Jimmy and the Heat and the way they approach matchups, like, I trust them so much more in a playoff series. You make a great point. They're going to be an absolute pain in the butt for whoever they get in the first round. I think they're probably winning. If they're in the 4-5 matchup, I think the Heat get out of that. In the second round, though, if it's Philly, that's the team at the top of the East from those top 3 teams that I like the best for Miami in a playoff series. So there is a legitimate pathway to the Eastern Conference Finals for all the shit that this team has gone through, all the crap that we've thrown on them, and all the overreacting that we guilty over here, okay, we have done over the course of this season. They might just, you know, screw around and end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. So
this is how we win.
Yes,
that is the path. I saw it a little while ago. I mean, it's the only one that just makes the most sense, where it's like, look, man, you got to stay away. I feel like you got to stay away from those other 2 teams as much as you can. That's the one way where I'm like adjusting for their inconsistency. And like, now that we know for a fact Depot's not coming back, I can let go of the hope. You know, it just makes that whole Brooklyn idea just a lot tougher to imagine. Like, you wanted the extra point of attack defender, and now it's just like, man, I have a tough time imagining how the Heat guard that team, even though it is a team you could pick on a whole lot. But that Philly matchup, man, oof.
Oh,
give me that.
I'm seeing food,
I want that.
I'm seeing dinner. Turn Embiid into a passer. Make the rest of them kill you. I bet you they won't. And it's really what it comes down to. As much like we could talk about everything else, but summarize down to that, like, is Embiid gonna carve up that trapping defense? I don't know. Maybe he can. Will he do it? Enough.
He's been not very good reacting and making the right decisions out of double teams. He's gotten better as that's gone along, and he's seen it more. But he still remains like just not a great I don't know what the word is, but he doesn't always find the right pass and make the right play out of the double team. His reaction is not always ideal. And like we've been saying,
got that negative assist turnover ratio for the season.
Like we've been saying, like
there?
Yeah.
Apparently, Giancarlo is still saying that. Shout out Giancarlo Navas.
Yes, sir.
But I trust him with the numbers. But that it's true though. Like, I'm supposed to be scared of the Sixers, man. Like, because of
who's
the
beating
standing?
you at the end? Okay? If what is their end of game offense? They're throwing the ball to Embiid on the block a lot of the time, or involving him in high screen and roll type plays.
Dump down to Simmons hook shot.
That's what I'm saying. When he gets the ball, you're trapping, you're double teaming, and then he's skipping it to who? It
Shake
gets to
Milton.
Ben. But that's
in the bubble,
thing.
he was their late game offense. Like, it was Shake Milton.
That's where I'm going. Is like at the end of games,
you're
telling me
Milton.
The guys that are going to be beating you are Shaky Milton, and Tobias Harris. I'm just not. I'm taking Jimmy. I'm taking Jimmy.
Imagine being scared of Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. Not me.
I agree with talking movies. Tobias is nice though. Marco, you look like you had something to say.
No, I agree with everything you guys were saying. Who do you trust more? To outside of the two stars, Embiid and Jimmy, do you trust Bam, Gordon,
Yes.
Nunn, I guess Tyler, and all the other guys, as opposed to Philadelphia's supporting roster? Yeah, we've seen Miami's supporting roster do it more often than Philly's supporting roster do it. So I guess I'm leaning more towards Miami.
Real quick, you left off Dwayne Dedmon when talking about the Heat supporting role players. Shame on you. But I definitely think it's the Miami Heat's other guys for sure. I listen, I know that Philly has a really good squad this year, but I feel like they're better built for the regular season, frankly. They don't scare me at the end of games in the playoff series.
One thing we had, I think we were in this chat that we brought up, was Miami and Philadelphia have the same record since Jimmy Butler came back from his protocols.
The ultimate equalizer, Jimmy Butler, which is the last time Philly looked like a contender. Supposed to be scared of that team. Give me a break.
Jimmy's not scared, that's for sure.
Jimmy's definitely. Oh my god.
The mental games that he's going to play in that series is unreal.
We need this. We need this. We
I'm
need
with
to beat Sixers in the second round. Like I completely forgot about the Jimmy. Oh come on, bro.
We want Knicks and then we want Philly.
My stomach is grumbling. I'm hungry for this.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And I'm also just hungry.
That makes sense.
Get Miami Grill. Easy.
I'm also with you.
Oh, lob and the slam. I love it. Get Miami Grill, man. Shout out to them.
We're not even sponsored. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Eventually, we'll get Miami Grill. But for now, get whatever the fuck you want. But I mean, we kind of touched. I mean, that's what I wanted to ask. Like, which team would you want to see in the second round if the Heat were to be able to get to that point? I guess we all agree on it being Philadelphia. Between Brooklyn and Milwaukee now, which one would you guys choose to wrap things up?
I've been literally going at people on Twitter about this for the last 3 days, so I guess I'll start. For me, it's got to be I'd rather see Milwaukee. I think both are bad matchups for the Heat. The Heat are not favored in either series. The reason I would rather see Milwaukee is reason one. I literally talked about this on postgame last night. Reason one is
get that dono. Pronounce his name right, please, because Royal refused.
This is our guy, Abel Shaw. Don't tell Royal this pod is better, no cap. I will not tell him. You should send him a DM, though. Appreciate you, though. Thank you. As far as the Milwaukee versus Brooklyn thing for Miami, I'm not as afraid of Giannis in the style of game that gets played in the playoffs, which is a half-court, slower, grinded-out type game. He doesn't have a bag, as much as a lot of these other dudes do on Brooklyn, of course. So I'm not as worried about him and what he can do in the half-court. Drew makes them better for sure. Eric Spoelstra has, coached circles around Coach Budenholzer in the past, though Budenholzer has shown a willingness to change the way that he does things with his players this year. So all in all, I don't think it's a good matchup for the Heat. As far as the Brooklyn matchup goes, the two things that the Heat do best on defense is they switch everything, and their zone is really good. The two biggest strengths for Brooklyn on offense are that they have elite level matchup hunters, which will kill the switching defense. They will hunt the matchups they want all night and get whatever they want on offense. You don't know how many of those possessions are going to end up with Kendrick Nunn and Gordon.
And how do you help? How do you help against Brooklyn?
There's nobody to help off of.
You really need to hope that there's like one night you can outscore them off the bench. Another night Jimmy goes nuclear. And then the other two nights they just miss.
That's why, I really like the Depot idea, man. Specifically, for the Milwaukee matchup too, but for the Brooklyn thing, it's like that you need to be 100% on point in a theoretical series with them. And you could have been able to play man a little bit more, play drop a little bit more if you had to, just had more options and not have to rely on, somebody you don't want guarding Kyrie or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to get more likely than not a bad matchup in a lot of the times that you play them.
What's going to happen if you zone Brooklyn?
Oh my God!
That's what I'm saying. Like the two biggest strengths of the Heat's defense, I think, play into the strengths of the Nets' offense. So that's where I'm at with that.
It's an interesting debate, man. It really is, because it's like I've been saying all year, like I do not want the Nets, and I've been hinting at. I don't even know. I can't come up with a game plan versus them. I really can't. The Bucks thing is interesting.
Hope they're hurt.
They're like a supercharged version of the Celtics last year, where they have one guy at each position that can kill you one-on-one.
Yeah, it's actually good.
That's a great comparison.
Instead of Kemba Walker, they have Kyrie Irving.
Man, the Milwaukee thing, the only thing that makes me think twice about it is just their defense. And it's like the Heat already, the offense has turned around, we know, in this last little stretch. But, their struggles all year make me a little bit scared to go up against a team that's become more willing to throw out different coverages. And if they just decide to play PJ Tucker a lot more than Brook Lopez, I think that's kind of a scary thought. If they're playing Giannis more at the 5, if they're screening and rolling Giannis more. Like, Bryn Forbes would light us up, by the way. I think Bryn Forbes, if we play against them, is going to have an insane series because he's their best shooter outside of, like, Chris Middleton. And he's the type of guy that they help off of just because of their defensive principles. But that's not why I would be willing to take the Bucks over the Nets. It's their defense, and it's the fact that Giannis got a little better. I don't think he's all the way there yet, but he's added some stuff here and there to his intermediate game. I like it. Like, he has a little bit of confidence in it. It's not as hesitant as he was before. He doesn't have the 3 yet. I think it's still awkward. I don't really care about the 3 for him right now. I think if he keeps, adding in a 1 or 2 of those intermediate shots a game, it just makes him a lot tougher to guard. And the more confidence he gets with that, like between that, having Drew there, who you can't ignore, Middleton, I feel like got even better. He's a killer. Like, I think the Bucks are tough too, and Brooklyn has a whole lot of guys that the Heat can pick on offense.
Yes, they do.
So are you saying Giannis has a bag though? Did you just say?
No. But he's adding to it a little bit. He had no bag.
A lunchbox.
He had no bag last year.
I'm
going to give him credit for adding some stuff to it.
Yeah, he's got a brown paper bag right now. He's slowly trending to
like an OE in it, a half exposed
and a bear paw.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else. I'm so excited to see what happens in the playoffs. Like, it's so unpredictable. Whoever we get, I'm going to talk myself into being really confident in that series the same way I did last year. And my thing with this team is there's so much non-X's and O's that comes to the table with Jimmy Butler. Like, he is just the absolute alpha dog. And I think he still is, in terms of mentality, the alpha within the Eastern Conference. And over the last two playoffs, obviously Kevin Durant hasn't been there, whatever, and he wasn't able to fully beat Kawhi. But since Jimmy was in Philadelphia, since Jimmy was traded to the Eastern Conference, I mean, it's kind of been his
I like this
conference.
point, man. I like this point. I'm jealous that I didn't come up with this. He's the biggest alpha in the East. I love this.
He is. Like, his mentality. Like, I mean, KD's obviously ridiculously talented. So is Harden and Kyrie, and there's more talented players. But Jimmy Butler's the guy that he'll see someone more talented than it, and he'll say, you know what, I got it. And then he'll put Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson on his back, and he'll just tell them that they can do something special. That's what they did last year. Like, I'm not going to rule out anything. Obviously, the Heat won't be favored, but I'm so excited to see what the follow-up performance looks like for the Heat. Because when you really break it down, what this team has looked like over the last few games is exactly, if not maybe a little bit better than what they were going into the bubble or going into the playoffs in the bubble. I mean, anything can happen. If this team gets confident and wins a round 1 series in a decisive manner, special things can happen.
Mm-hmm. There's a similar feeling to last year. Last year, they were like, we know who we are. We don't care about this final week. We know what we're going to do. And I feel like that's where they're at right now. They know who they are, and they know what they have to do.
Get Atlanta, New York, round 1. It looks like it's going to be Atlanta, round 1. Win out, get Atlanta, then get Philly, and then I don't give a shit who we play after that. They're going down. So, I mean, anything can happen. That's all I'm going to say. Trevor Ariza catches fire. Dwayne Dedmon. We didn't have Unc last year. Like, we didn't have Uncle Dedmon. That's crazy. This year we have a serviceable, big-bodied, rebounding rim presence.
Oh, my God. Embiid's worst nightmare.
No. Uncle Dedmon. Yes, sir. I can't wait.
Embiid is going to have nightmares about that face a month from now. I can't wait.
I'm with Gad.
Keep Bam out of foul trouble, man. I love it.
I'm with Gad. The Heat are going to the finals. You talked me back on.
Well, let's go. No, my guts have returned. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's go.
I haven't guaranteed anything, but my guts have returned.
Mine just returned as you were giving
right
that
now.
talk.
Right now.
Yep.
I have my guts. Now, with all that being said, I mean, we just hit an hour. I'd imagine Manny's pretty tired. Do we have any last words?
Give 5.
Heat in 5? Oh
That's
my
what
God.
It's got to be.
Heat in 5. All right. You heard it here first. The Guts are back. Heat in 5. Jimmy's an alpha dog.
The alpha of the East.
It's going to be a fun time. All right.
Peace out.
Play that video, Manny.